everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Sports Card Advantage podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm joined by Bunk. What's going on, Bunk?
What's up, Jeff? How we doing?
Doing good, doing good. First and foremost, before we jump in, apologize to our tens of listeners out there that we missed last week. Unfortunately, I had a ridiculously bad reaction to COVID vaccine number 2, so I was down for the count and could not move. And no, we're not going to open up a discussion on the legitimacies of the vaccine, guy. So we're just going to jump right in to our draft recap. We were going to cover this last week. We're about a week late. But NFL draft happened at the end of April, beginning of May. And we're going to talk about where everybody landed, how that's going to impact the hobby. Give me some of the things, your highlights from the draft, what you saw, and what you're thinking about in regards to how that's going to impact the hobby.
Well, I always like to, especially with football cards, because baseball cards is more my thing. With football cards, I like to equate what I'm seeing with the draft and the product releases and card market prices with how you doing on my fantasy team.
Okay.
So I mean, the bottom line is, for example, take some fantasy football rankings or look at some statistics. And statistics drive, especially in football, these prices. I mean, you could see week to week fluctuations like crazy just from a Sunday performance. So I'm looking at who's going to be in the best scenario, who's got weapons around them, and who's most likely to perform.
That being said, let's look at Joe Burrow. The Bengals added his college teammate, Ja'Marr Chase. They still have T. Higgins, Burrow coming off the injury. Some of his obviously bigger silver auto cards are expensive, but some of his lesser base cards are still affordable, especially if you're buying them raw. You could look for some Burrow raw Prism lots or Optic or some of the other higher end raw cards. Try to get them graded. I think that if Burrow comes back and starts slinging, his cards are going to shoot up dramatically. People are waiting to see what he's going to look like because they didn't get that good of a view of him last year.
Yeah, that's exactly why. That's exactly why some of those raws are where they are. I'm actually been picking up raw Burrows, not to grade, but just to, as soon as that season starts, I have no doubt he's going to come back, look strong, and I'll turn him into baseball cards later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other teams, it definitely looked like people were drafting fantasy. People were trying to bring back the double dips from college. So you had Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. You have Tua and Jalen Waddle. You have Hurts and Devonta Smith. And all those guys all played together in college. They all had phenomenal stats in college. And if they can rekindle some of that magic, Tua's another guy. Did not have a fantastic rookie season. Came in with a ton of hype, a lot of love, and his cards also affordable right now. Some of his base cards, we talked about it 2 weeks ago on the podcast. Somebody that we're acquiring. You can buy PSA 10s in some of his base cards for less than $200. And if he can get some of that magic rolling, you should easily see 3 to 4 times your money on those.
Yeah, I mean, Tua's got a lot of speed around him now. With his wide out. So it should be interesting to see. And the other interesting is going to see is how much of a direct relationship is there going to be with the drafted rookies and the quarterback play, and how quick is that going to manifest itself? So Burrow and Tua come out slinging, but it's not necessarily Ja'Marr Chase and Waddle getting involved. But are we going to start seeing growth on those cards right away?
Yeah, I mean, that leads us to another discussion as far as position players. And last year there was a tremendous hype on position players out, other than the quarterback. We'll circle back on some of the other quarterbacks here in a minute. But let's talk, your wide receivers from 2020, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Reagor, all guys that went really high in the draft. And maybe Lamb retained some value, but everybody else did not play well, had injuries, other things. And those values, when they came out in September with Mosaic and all the hype and everybody getting excited, I mean, you're probably looking at half to maybe less than half of when they came out to where they are now for those cards.
Yeah, and to be fair, this release. So when we don't have the NFL release dates on the non-college products yet, right? So to be fair, last year in the middle of the pandemic, everyone home and football came out. I think there was a different hype and a different what have you surrounding those release dates. And yes, people were overpaying out of their mind for Mosaic cards. So I agree with you. They have mostly tanked. So it should be interesting to see. I don't see the hype disappearing now, but I wonder if there's going to be a difference between last August, September, October compared to this August, September, October.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, shout out to the guys on the Card Talk pod. They brought up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They talked about that on their podcast. And, he is the shining example of the position player that, I mean, his hype was so high when his cards came out. People were paying through the nose for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He got drafted really high. He was going really high in fantasy drafts. And, if you look at his card values now, super, super affordable. And he is the warning sign, So if you are looking to collect Waddle and Chase and Devonta Smith and Kadarius Toney, that the Giants drafted, or whoever the position players are in the first round, you can wait on that stuff. The initial hype is going to be there. People can't wait to get their hands on it and flip it and whatever. But if you're looking for those position guys, wait on them. You can easily wait into the 2-3 months after the product comes out, see how they're playing on the field, and still get stuff for affordable prices.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going to go back into 2019 and 2020 draft classes. Guys who exploded at first, maybe they're not ready to perform yet, or now walking into year 2, year 3 in the NFL, prices are affordable, but they're going to have more of the impact than they did initially. That scared people away.
The biggest one, maybe Laviska Shenault. He has a talent by the boatload and has not had a quarterback. So if he comes in and gets a bond going with Lawrence, I mean, he will easily take some shine, from the Lawrence hype. And, if the two of them are connecting for touchdowns, his card should shoot up, and you can get some really nice Laviska pieces with super sweet Jacksonville Jaguar patches on them for dirt cheap right now.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I like going backwards to your point earlier about the release side. I mean, listen, FOMO is going to be huge, and these things are still going to get bought. People are still going to buy into the breaks, and as they should. You do it for entertainment. You do it for the thrill, the big hit. I mean, we're not saying don't do it, but just for me, if I'm trying to maximize my value on the money I'm spending, I'm probably going to go pre-2021 draft classes and look to see what I can do there.
Yeah, I mean, look at last year's 2020 guys that didn't have fantastic seasons but are still talented. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, perfect example. Edwards-Helaire, Henry Ruggs, Rager, those guys, their stuff is incredibly affordable right now. And, like Edwards-Helaire, perfect example. I don't believe that Le'Veon is in Kansas City anymore. And, he should get some shine back. They drafted him really high, and they got to get their value out of him. So I think he'll get more playing time in a high-powered offense, new offensive line. So he could be a much better pickup now than if you were trying to buy him, September, October of last year.
And then on the flip side, something I'm going to keep an eye on is some of your lower-tiered wideouts and running backs in the early releases here from this draft class that are definitely not slated to have an immediate 2021 NFL impact, but could still be had at a reasonable price now. So if you want to hop on something, there's a couple of running backs I'm looking at and some wide receivers that maybe 2021 initial values are reasonable to hop in on.
Would you like to share with us who they are?
Yeah, like for example, Trey Sermon. He's going to be buried in the 49ers depth chart for a while, right?
Yeah.
But Mostert, Wilson, Gallman, they are all off the books at the end of this season. And boom, left Trey Sermon. Yeah, so absolutely. He's a guy, he's not going to get much run probably this year, but he's, from all accounts, highly talented, and he's the future back there. And the Broncos guy, Javonte Williams.
Sure. We'll look that up and see if we can figure it out.
No, it's Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams. He's going to be behind UNC guy. Have you watched his highlight films at
Oh
all?
yeah, oh yeah. There was a whole thing on Twitter once he got drafted. Melvin Gordon posted like the googly eyes, as far as why the Broncos drafting another running back type deal. They already got Travis Lindsey and Melvin Gordon, so but obviously Gordon's going to be off the books in a year or two, and same with Lindsey.
Yeah, the idea there is by 2022 you're going to have him leading the backfield. But yeah, I mean the problem with him is he played in the ACC, so most of his missed tackles, the experts, whoever they are, they equate it to just poor tackling versus heavy talent. But
Well,
he looks pretty damn good to me.
the guys at Duke aren't exactly known for their tackling abilities. So a couple of other impacts from the draft. Broncos did not draft a quarterback, but they did trade for Teddy Bridgewater. So, we talked about Drew Lock a couple weeks ago. Everything we talked about still holds true if Lock wins the job. So if Lock wins the job, he's got a ton of talent around him and all the opportunity in the world to succeed. And once again, quarterback drive the hobby. And, let's see what happens with that. But I want to touch on, before we move on from the draft, I want to touch on the two other quarterbacks that we haven't talked about yet. We're assuming Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Fields are going to be on the field pretty much right from the get-go. Trey Lance and Mac Jones, we are not sure about yet. Obviously, Cam Newton in New England. And then Jimmy G in San Francisco. Neither one of them have committed to anything as far as who's going to be on the field. So those guys could be a bit of a delayed reaction, Justin Herbert type of situation. But unfortunately, last year going into the hype, there was a lot less hype that has built, but now we're going to have 12 more months of hobby hype. So you got to figure that Mac Jones and Lance are still going to sell for big money.
Yeah, I think they are. I think the fact that Mac Jones is a Patriot and linked to Bill Belichick and Brady, blah blah blah. I think Mac Jones could have went in the 5th round or 6th round to the Patriots, and he's still going to have hype surrounding him because of where he is right now.
Yeah, people are making Brady comparisons, but I'm gonna put Mac Jones on my bust list right now. I'm calling it May 11th, 2021. I'm calling it right now. Mac Jones bust.
Fair enough. I have no idea how to even tell you if he's a bust or not.
I don't. He just seems like he's. Brady came in super humble and just like that goofy aw shucks kind of dude, and Mac Jones is like swinging his whatever around, but
Brady came in with no social media. It's all different now.
Yeah,
all different. But I get you. I totally understand what you're saying. But it's all everything's different now.
Yeah, I'm calling it now. All
right,
Mac Jones bust.
You're on record.
On record, May 11th, 2021. Mac Jones bust. I've been pretty decent as far as calling busts lately, with the exception of potentially Wander Franco, who is absolutely destroying triple A baseball. Actually going to see him in a few weeks, but we'll see what happens.
Still there.
Yeah, I'm going to be so pissed if he's not. Going to the Durham Bulls game with my pops. So hopefully Wander will still be there.
Nice. What's your take on Trey Lance?
I got to imagine Jimmy G starts the season. Everybody has said that Lance is an athletic talent, but he needs development. So you have to figure Jimmy G starts the season, and, depending on how good the 49ers are, if they're winning games, Jimmy G plays. If they're, 2-7 by week 10, you got to figure they're going to let Lance take the field and look to move Jimmy G somewhere.
Yeah, if they have all their defensive guys back, I have a feeling we're not going to see much Trey Lance this year. I think they should be pretty darn good.
Yeah, and we'll see. If he holds a clipboard for a year, you got to figure his card hype will be big at the beginning. But if the 49ers are 10-4 and looking like they're going to make the playoffs and Lance hasn't played it down, I have to imagine his card's are not going to be as high in value, especially as you get into January and February, and could present some buying opportunities because they drafted him 3 overall, so he's going to play at some point.
Yeah, long term or short term, stats matter. So you're not on the field, it's going to dictate.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, any other comments, things from the draft, stuff you want to talk about, things you got on your little list over there?
No, nothing. I think we hit it all.
All right.
Or you touched on it.
Fantastic. Let's move on to investments and lottery tickets. This is going to be all me because we're talking basketball. First and foremost, want to talk RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett, high draft pick for the Knicks. Knicks haven't made the playoffs in God knows how long. I think you are going to see tremendous hype around the Knicks and their players and the hobby. Once the playoffs start, Knicks are pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs as of right now. And if they can actually win a playoff series, I mean, Barrett is in my opinion, is the play for in terms of hobby cards, basketball cards, because Julius Randle has been a beast all season. His cards are already super expensive. You have the 2 rookies who got a lot of rookie hype. So Barrett kind of floats there in the middle because the Knicks were bad last year during his rookie season. Right now, you're looking at Prism PSA 10 for 150, Optic PSA 10 for 80, Silver Raw, Prism Silver Raw 100 to 150, and a PSA 10 is 650. So if you're looking at base cards that are PSA 10s, there's a couple that you can get for less than $200. And if you are looking at his silver PSA 10, you're looking at $650. So depending on where your budgets are, if the Knicks play well in the first series and win the first series, I have to imagine Knicks pandemonium goes nuts. You're going to see Spike on TV. You're going to see the fandom. The Garden will be hopefully full. I'm not sure where they are right now in New York as far as opening things back up. But if the Garden is full and the Knicks are on national television and they're getting hype, Barrett stuff is going to get crazy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Knicks big game against the Lakers out there tonight. Currently, I think they're holding on to the 4 seed. I mean,
Yep.
if they could finish and hold on to that 4 seed and get in that 4-5 game, they, by all accounts, they have a good shot of moving on.
Yeah. And dude, if the Knicks go into round 2 of the playoffs and Barrett continues to put up 18 to 20 points a game like he has been, or even shines a little bit in the playoffs, easily can double up on your money throughout the playoffs. I mean, last year you had the Tyler Hero phenomenon, and his cards went from literally 0 to 1,000 real quick. And Barrett has that opportunity. New York Knicks fans are all over the country. And New York basketball, and desperate. New York basketball hasn't been good since we were in like 8th grade. I mean, since John Starks. I mean, so it's been that long. The other person I want to talk about in the investment category is Trae Young. Trae Young, his cards were at one point mentioned in the same breath as Luka, and now if you look at a chart of Trae Young cards, it's literally been down, basically straight down for the last 6 months to a year, and there's no explanation why. He is still playing good basketball. He's still averaging 25 points a game. He's still putting up 6 to 8 assists a game. They're playing in Atlanta, which is a major market for basketball. I can't explain to you why his stuff is off. But at the same time, it presents you with some opportunities. His Prism PSA 10s are going for $300 to $350. You can get a Prism Silver Raw for $200. You can get a Prism Silver PSA 10 for $1,600, depending on what your budgets are. I mean, if you look at the Luka comparison, they came out the same year. His stats are not that far behind Luka. It's just Luka just gets so much more shine. So if it's me going into the playoffs or even longer, like you can hold his stuff even longer. Same with Barrett, because if the Knicks continue to get better and are playing well, Barrett's a good long-term investment. So is Trae Young. I think both of those guys, there will be some voids in the stars of the NBA coming up here in the next few years. guys like LeBron are going to retire. Guys like, Durant and, some of these other guys are going to be gone in the next few years, and it brings it in for the next generation. And I think RJ Barrett, Trae Young, both can be in that same, in the stardom of the NBA.
Yeah, and then to your point about some of those silver prices, one thing I like to look at when making a determination if it's something I want to try to buy and flip. Now, this is for a short term. I like your long term analysis there. Um, if you look at the Prism Raw silvers of both those players, and then what I like to do, whatever the popular card is, I like to look at, okay, here's the raw value. Let me see what the PSA 10 sells for. So you can see the Trae Young PSA 10 is doubled up over, if not more, right, over than the Barrett.
Yep.
So if I'm looking at raw values. Now, obviously, every situation is different, but I'm more likely maybe to get in on a raw silver Trae Young because of how expensive the PSA 10 is. So if I'm looking for a short-term flip and there's a big jump in his price because of the playoffs, as you're suggesting, I'm more likely to buy that raw Trae Young silver prism because I think there'll be more ability or more upside on that to resell to someone looking or dreaming of a PSA 10.
Yeah, silver raw, Trae Young 200, PSA 10 going for 1,600. So
that's a big deal. You're not going to see, not many cards can do that.
Yeah, 100%. And the Prism makes a good gradable product. So I mean, the big thing that you're looking for when you're scouring photos and stuff online for raw silvers, you want to make sure that the centering is as good as it possibly can, and then you want to look at the corners. As it, in my opinion, if the centering's good and the corners are good on Prism cards, more than likely you should be in a good spot to get that 9 or 10. Very rarely are you going to get surface issues unless there's a scratch or thumbprint or whatever else. So those are the two things that I would look at. But yeah, that's it. There's tremendous opportunity with both these guys for 6 to 8x if you can get raw silvers and for relatively cheap and get them graded, or you buy that PSA 10 for 300 and sit on it and see what they do in the playoffs. Because if they play well in the playoffs, it's instant value.
Yep, and it's all relative. Identify your budget, get in where you want, and you're looking for that short-term flip, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least, we're going to talk a little lottery ticket. Deandre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton on Phoenix Suns. Definitely the big man out in Phoenix. He's getting outshined right now by Devin Booker as far as the hobby is concerned. Everybody, doing the Devin Booker, buying in on Devin Booker and, comparing him to, what the hell, why can't I remember his name? The guy, Donovan Mitchell. So there's been the whole Booker versus Mitchell, and everybody's buying those guys. But Ayton silently coming through with basically averaging a double-double. And, Phoenix is going in with the high seed into the playoffs. And, PSA 10s, you can get his base Prism PSA 10s for 100. His silver PSA 10 is 250, and an optic PSA 10 is $75. So definitely a guy that I would also grab going into the playoffs that you can double up on, provided that he plays well and, you're not spending that much cash. All the three prices we just named are all PSA 10s. You don't have to worry about condition issues and, flip them. Phoenix goes deep into the playoffs and, provided that they make it to the finals, whatever it may be, you're easily able to flip those cards for double or triple your money.
Yeah, good deal. We'll see. We'll see if last year's basketball playoff hobby ladders exist this year as well.
Well, I think we're in a good spot for that to happen. NBA in general has been trending downward. There's been a lot of people that have shifted monies to baseball and some of that stuff with some guys getting out into investing into baseball and then money getting spread into NFTs or other aspects looking for deals. So NBA in general has been on a downward trend, and I think the playoffs is what will turn that around for at least a month or two. You have some documentaries coming out, Kobe, the Magic Johnson documentary. So I think all of that with the playoffs will turn NBA back up for at least a couple months, before we get into the off season for both football and basketball, and then we'll focus a lot on baseball.
All right, guy, I'm gonna go grab some Barretts.
Yeah, guy, get on eBay. All right, so we've been talking about it through most of this. Our education segment for the day, NBA playoff, what that means for the hobby and prices. We can just continue the conversation. I don't know if there's that much more to talk about with it. Just that, when the spotlight's on and the national attention is there, right now what I'd be looking at, is exactly how I found Barrett and Young. I'm looking at guys who are in the play, teams that are going to be in the playoffs, and, guys that are having an impact whose card prices have not been shooting up. Those are the things that I'm looking for. And I want to sit on those cards for the playoffs, see how they play. More than likely, unless the guy completely shits the bed, you're not looking at, a situation where you're going to lose your money. You should at least be able to break even. So, NBA playoffs are definitely an opportunity to make some money.
Yeah, and I think so. What some of the basketball card veterans likely do too here is they're looking at all the youngsters that are on these up and coming teams. So you got teams getting into the playoffs for the first time. So they got some young guys on their squads. You get a chance maybe to see them in a limited fashion, but you get a chance to see how the team's playing, where their upside is, where they're headed. So that may help them educate and drive where they're headed with some of those players, knowing that a team's going to be good for a long time with some prospects buried on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. Playoffs going to get started here in 3 weeks? Probably sometime beginning of June, I think, is when.
Yeah, Knicks got 4 games left.
Okay. So yeah, so we're probably looking at in 2 weeks. We'll be looking at, and this year's different because there's the play-in games and whatever, so that'll take up some time. So yeah, I would have to say that the actual playoffs will start probably the third or fourth week of May. Which will be good, and then we'll see. We'll keep tabs on what we're talking about, and try to feature some other guys, as we go. And then I guess the biggest one that we didn't talk about is Luka. Mavericks are on the fringe of whether or not they're going to make the playoffs. His cards are way down. So if you're looking at potentially investing in Luka, if he comes in and plays in the playoffs like he did last year or 2 years ago. Obviously you'll see a huge surge on Lucas as well. All right, guy, time for a little hot take. We got 5 quarterbacks to choose from, and will Trevor Lawrence be the most valuable quarterback in terms of cards in 10 years? I'll let you go first.
Me go first? I mean, it's easy to say no. It's really easy to say no. But we're talking from the 5 in this class?
From the 5 in this class.
From the 5 in this class? Yeah, I'm going to have to go with yes. I mean, I don't trust the Jets with anything.
Okay.
So Zach Wilson's off the board for me. The Bears situation's awful. Justin Fields off the board for me. I don't know, guy. I'm going to go with Mac Jones PSA 10 outsells a Trevor Lawrence in 10 years.
Okay.
That's where I'm going.
So you're completely contradicting my Mac Jones bust theory from earlier today.
Yes, I am.
All right. I'm also going to say no here on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the hype, it's all just a question of whether or not the hype is real and or whether or not they can put some weapons around him so that he can succeed. And I'm going to take Zach Wilson. I'm going to say that here is my hottest of hot takes for you. Throw it in your face. Zach Wilson becomes the new Derek Jeter in New York.
Oh boy. No. No one's replacing Derek Jeter. B, the Jets have shown me nothing over the last 50 years to make me think that they're going to do anything with Zach Wilson and all these draft picks they have.
They got a new coach who seems to have his head on his shoulders. The New York market, the kid seems like he can stand up to some of the media so far. I mean, he was on, Boomer and Carton, where they asked about his mom and her being a MILF and all this stuff, and he handled that well. he's a good-looking kid, and he can definitely be dangerous in the New York social scene. So I am making that statement. He will be the most valuable quarterback in this class and be the next Derek Jeter in New York. I mean, if you have a New York quarterback playing well, with you're talking about Namath, the second coming of Joe Namath.
I don't know. I mean, listen, Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls, and he's not even close to replacing Derek Jeter.
I mean, Eli Manning just had that goofy, stupid look on his face, and he was also like the wholesome Southerner, married, before he even got here, and so I think that Zach Wilson has that opportunity to be just a stud on the field, and the Jets have some weapons. They drafted well. They got him another receiver in the draft along with the other guys they already got on the roster. So he's my pick for 10 years from now.
Yeah, listen, I mean, again, I'm just making my take based on historically the Jets. But yeah, to all your points, they're all accurate. He's in a great situation to blossom. So I don't think it's crazy take on your part to say that. A lot of things have to go right, of course, but the starting point where he's coming into, unlike some of these other guys with their starting points, Zach Wilson's in a good position.
Yeah. I mean, and that takes nothing away from Lawrence. Lawrence could very easily be the second coming of fucking Joe Montana. I mean, if they get him a receiver in there that he can play well with, he absolutely has the talent. It's just, when's the last time somebody with this much hype around him actually lived up to it is the question.
Andrew Luck.
But did he? Andrew Luck didn't even make 10 years.
Yeah, fair. No, that's fair. Yeah, we don't know. And and to your point, we're not dismissing Trevor Lawrence's abilities.
No, not at all.
Opinions.
I mean, I'd probably go back to Peyton. As far as the last time somebody came in with this much hype that became one of the best ever. I mean, because that's what people are already saying, that Lawrence is going to be one of the best ever, and da-da-da-da. But, I think...
and listen, you think historically, so my perception of Jacksonville is they're not going to win. So it taints my view sometimes.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah, and, with the statement we've always made, quarterbacks drive the hobby, and you got to put stats on the board. Because the rookie hype is one thing, but 5 years in, if you're a mediocre quarterback on a bad team that doesn't win, nobody's buying your shit. I mean, that's just it. All right, Guy, we got one more topic to talk about. It's our peanut gallery for the day. There is so much swirling around this topic. Question coming in. Rumor is that Panini is shutting down retail products to big box stores. What do you hear? What can you tell us?
Well, I think Sports Card Advantage had it yesterday, sir.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Listen, Panini put on their blog that they're still got strong working relationships with the retail distributors, and nothing to worry about was my takeaway.
I think I'm going to put it at 50-50 that 2022 we see retail product in stores for 2 reasons. Number one, if people keep getting held up in Target parking lots at gunpoint, which happened in the last week, if store managers keep getting physically assaulted in Target stores, which has happened in the last few months, I think Panini shuts it down. I mean,
okay, you say out of stores by 2022.
Yeah, I think that Panini will literally go to a NBA Top Shot type of queue where it's like, we have this many boxes and each person can get one, and we're going to put it on our site, and you get what you get, and that's it. And I think that if they were going to do that, that's a strong possibility. God forbid somebody gets injured or killed and it's just a huge PR nightmare for Panini. They're going to pull that shit in a heartbeat. And I think that now that cards in general are getting so much more press as far as the value, we're seeing so much more crime associated with it. There's a video that we posted on Sports Card Advantage. Shout out to Card Porn on Instagram. They posted it. A card store in Tennessee got robbed within the last few days. Guy got $50,000 in cards, and the dude has no security, no gate, no nothing. He just broke the front window, walked in, took a bunch of cases of National Treasures, and some other stuff and walked out and 50 grand in less than 5 minutes.
In a backpack.
Not even. Dude, this guy literally was bent over with his ass crack hanging out in front of the camera, literally trying to carry the boxes out in, like, he didn't have a duffel bag. He didn't have shit. He just walked out. You know, there's so much more stuff going on right now with violence around cards or scams. HGA Instagram got hacked. The Prominent Breakers Instagram got hacked. People are holding it for ransom, trying to sell it to other people and collect Bitcoin. So I think people really got to be on their toes. As far as the hobby is concerned, there's a lot more scams. There's a lot more crime. There's a lot more everything going on. So I think it's 50-50. If the crime continues to surround this, that they will shut it down and just sell it on their website because they don't need they're the golden company right now. Panini, Topps, they can't do wrong. And this is the only thing that's, one of the few things that's a black eye for them. And I think if it continues, they shut it down.
I mean, yeah, for a lot of us, especially in the Northeast, I mean, I haven't seen blasters on shelves in a Walmart or a Target in like 2 or 3 years. Now, I don't know if the people were stalking vendors back then too, but I literally haven't seen anything on the shelf. So for me, I don't even bother looking anymore because I know it's not there. So this has no impact on me whatsoever.
Well, I think I'm actually going to try to go to like Target or Walmart and see. Supposedly Target is now doing stuff on Fridays. You're only allowed to buy one product, and that's when they get everything in, and that's when it all sells out, and you can buy one product at a time. So I think I'm going to try to do a little field reporting here for Sports Card Advantage and see what actually is on shelves here in I'm in North Carolina. So supposedly there's more stuff that's been available at Target lately because they're limiting it to one purchase. And if you get there early on Friday, not like camp out early, but when the store opens, you can, find yourself some product on the shelves. So we'll see. But I mean, it's just nuts that, literally this week, a guy was held up in a Target parking lot by 4 other dudes. I think they pulled like knives and shit on him, and he was able to pull a gun and like scare these dudes off, but they were literally trying to rob his freaking blaster boxes.
Yeah, it's crazy. People are desperate. They want it. They're gonna do whatever it takes. And if they're like, to your point, if the press is that big on it and the values are so high, it's like anything else.
Dude, I'm equating it to diamonds. I literally am. A diamond this big, a slab that big, I can carry it in my hand and they could literally be worth the same or more. I mean, $100,000 diamond versus $100,000 slab, it's the same shit, and if it's a raw card that's worth a lot of money, there's no way to track that. There's no way to trace it.
Yeah, I mean, slabs are easier to trace. Serial number cards you can find.
Yeah, but
diamonds are all, you can't tell them apart. I mean, you can, but not as easily.
But at the same time, somebody robs a slab and goes and sells it privately at a show or, whatever else. There's no way you're going to find that out, figure it out, whatever. And, so I'm hoping that the hobby, wakes up a little bit and starts to realize that, this isn't the 50s, as far as like, this is real deal, real money, and you got to wake up and start protecting yourself.
What are your suggestion?
More security. I mean, dude, if you look at the video of this guy's store getting robbed, it's literally a glass door. That's the only thing that stands between somebody and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, you can carry a case of cards that cost $30,000 in your arms and walk it right out the door.
And be out in less than a minute.
Yeah. And there's no way to trace it. Zero. No way. So, that's what I'm saying. It's like, start waking up that this shit is a reality and people are going to try to take opportunities, and sometimes that means they're going to commit crimes.
Sad.
Yep, it is. But unfortunately, that's where we're at these days. All right. We are done with episode 9. Any closing thoughts for us today?
No, sir. I'm going to go hide all my cards, though.
Yeah, guy. Get a safe.
I already... anything I care about is not even here. So, it's all good.
Safety deposit box?
Yeah, guy.
You know, I mean, I highly recommend it. You know, if you have valuable cards at home, either fireproof safe or safety deposit box in a bank. You
Yeah,
know,
I've done that. I've done that for years.
yeah, insure everything, and don't even worry about the liability. Unless you have stuff on display, just protect yourself. All right, that is gonna do it for us, episode 9. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be back next week for episode 10. Have a good one, everybody.